Yeah. 'Cause I am and don't mean
Good afternoon.
I think my joy too.
Let's try that again. So, everybody hear me good? All right. So, I'm from NASA. My name is Sam Ortega, and I run a program called Centennial Challenges program. And we're all about engaging makers and getting makers involved to win lots of money that we like to offer up in prize purse competitions. So that's the topic of discussion that we're going to have today. I think I'm in a safe environment talking to people and inquiring. For all of you parents out there, I think the most satisfying statement that I've ever heard my child tell me was to walk up with something and go, I made it all by myself. Now that is a powerful tool to give a child. A child steps up and comes to you and they're so proud, and you know, you got to listen to the little things, because if you don't listen to the little things, when they grow up, they're not going to tell you about the big things, okay? So when a child comes up to you and says, I made it all by myself, man, get passionate about it. Get excited, because that's something cool. Your kid just made something. And that's something they can go on for the rest of their lives and be proud of. And hopefully at some point in time, they get to the point where they come and help me. So I've been with NASA for 25 years. I've gone through lots of different areas. I did structural analysis for payloads that flew in the back of the cargo bay. I flew microgravity experiments. I helped scientists create microgravity experiments. I got to train the astronauts on flying those. I was the lead ballistician for the space shuttle for the solid rocket motors. So I calculated the pressure and the thrust that would come out of those solid rocket motors. We'd go back after the flight and take the data we had and reconstruct our flights to make sure that it matched our predictions. And then we'd go off and try to make the motors better. So we're always looking to make improvements to have a better solid rocket motor. So all of these things that I've done, I held no job for any longer than 4 years. I guess that's just my personality. I wasn't satisfied. I got bored real quick, and so I moved on. Luckily, my company has a lot of things to move on to. The last job that I have, which I'm doing right now, and I'm kind of happy to say I don't think I'm going to be moving on for a long time, because I really, really like what I'm doing. The Centennial Challenges program is a program that NASA has to reach out to makers, to hackers, to citizen inventors, to academia, to college students. We actually have a high school student team competing for the first time this year in one of our competitions. We look for innovative solutions from anybody and everybody. And in fact, we find that solutions that come from our makers and our hobbyists and our citizen inventors are the most unique solutions that we get. So just as a word of, just as a notice for you all with your taxpayers' dollars that we, NASA, are so privileged to have the opportunity to use for space exploration. What we've done is a new business model that we're trying to follow. We've been doing it since 2003. We've decided that instead of paying a single person a large sum of money to develop a technology for us, what we'll do instead is take a small portion of money, hold it up high, and tell everybody and anybody, if you can build this technology that we need, this $1 million, this $2 million, this $3 million is yours. So now, instead of paying one person a large sum of money, I have a lot of people. In some cases, I'll have 25 teams competing in a competition, and they pay their own way. So if they invest $100,000, $200,000 in the technology over the period of a challenge, 25 teams, I've still got on the order of $5 million being invested in the advancement of technology, and I haven't paid anything yet. I have $5 million in the advancement of technology, and I only have to pay my $1.5 or $2 million if they meet the goals and objectives of the competition. That's pretty good leverage on taxpayers' dollars, I think. So that's our business model that we're operating from. We have a broad portfolio of competitions. We've done competitions in astronaut gloves, reducing the resistance in an astronaut glove. We've done competitions in electric airplanes by the CAFE Foundation, which I'm very pleased they're here today. We've had competitions in lunar landers, vertical takeoff and landing rockets. We've had competitions for autonomous robots, for energy storage systems, for unmanned aircraft vehicles. we've had a lot of different types of competitions that would satisfy the interests of any maker, any contributor, anybody who wants to compete in a competition, who thinks they can solve the problem. So it's really kind of neat. Some of our stories that we have, our second place winner for the astronaut glove competition. So some of you that may not be aware, if an astronaut goes out in their extravehicular activity suit, their EVA suit, the big white one, and they're out working for 6-8 hours, sometimes when they come back in, if they're doing especially active movements with their hands, they will actually come back in, take their gloves off, and their fingertips will be bleeding because of the resistance in that glove. When you're in space and you have 14 psi pressure inside your suit and there's 0 outside, you're literally sitting inside of a big balloon. If you ever had a balloon and you try to bend it and it flops back by itself, it's that resistance that they're having to resist every time they squeeze their hands, every time they grab the drill, every time they do anything, they're having to squeeze against that. So we held a competition. We want somebody to build us an astronaut glove that has less resistance. We want them to be able to squeeze their hands easier. So in that effort, some of our competitors that came in to compete, one of them was an unemployed aerospace engineer. He had been recently laid off. Peter Homer went off and took over the dining room table. He said, I can do that. Pulled out his sewing machine and started sewing and started sewing and started failing and started failing. And so finally, he came up with a glove design, and he thought he had a pretty unique design. He shows up at our competition, and sure enough, it was a pretty good design. He won first place. So now he takes that money, he starts a company, and now he's making astronaut gloves, not only for NASA, but for other companies as well. So second place winner comes in, and he is pretty fascinating because our second place winner is a Broadway show props manufacturer. He's just a maker. He'll make Broadway show props. He'll make props for Cirque du Soleil. They come to him one day and say, hey, you know, we need something that you can't see, and then when it's done, it's going to pop out, and it's going to be a wolf's head. Can you do that? And he's looking, going, well, yeah, sure, I can do that. So he goes back to his shop. He starts thinking. He puts together fabric suits. And in fact, the image right now is the spacesuit that he recently built. So we'll go back. So he goes back and he takes fabric tubes and he puts them all together, has it collapsed, a CO2 cartridge. When the Cirque du Soleil performer pops the CO2 cartridge, it unfolds, inflates, and all of a sudden now you've got this huge wolf's head with red glowing eyes that comes out of a pack from the back of his neck. So pretty innovative guy. He makes the wings for the Victoria's Secret models on the runway shows. So that's the background that this person is coming from. He sees the competition. He goes, shoot, yeah, I can make an astronaut glove. He enters the competition, wins second place, decides that was pretty fun, keeps making stuff to a point now, hey, Brian, to the point now he makes full spacesuits and sells them to a company in Spain that's going to be doing suborbital flights. And so he has IVA, intravehicular activity spacesuits. So the technology that's being developed isn't only of advantage to NASA ourselves, but it's of advantage to terrestrial applications. And that's a very important thing for you to realize. When we create a challenge, it's not just the one-off opportunity to sell that technology to NASA. When you, the maker, when you, the citizen inventor, and you, the hobbyist, help us solve those problems, that intellectual property, it belongs to you. And so we want you to go off and have an opportunity to create a business model, to start a business, to grow your business, to diverge your business into a different direction. And so our whole goal is to give you the opportunity to take advantage of that and go off and go move forward. So the Centennial Challenge program, whenever we create a challenge idea, we always make sure that a competition not only helps NASA, but it has a back-end business model, so it gives you the opportunity to go off and make a business model out of that competition or out of that technology. So other activities that we've done, we've started off 2 space companies. When we had our Lunar Lander Challenge, which took off vertically and landed vertically, those 2 teams, exact same thing. They took their money that they won, they invested it into their company, they grew their company, and now they're supplying launch services to NASA for suborbital flights. So there's a lot of history in us for the performance of the challenges, for the success of the challenges, not only for NASA gaining technology, but for you, the maker, to be able to gain advantage of leveraging off of that. We try to focus on our challengers repetitively and tell them, when you go off and develop something new, something different out of a challenge, come back and tell us. We want to be there to support you even after a challenge. That's our success. Every time that we have the ability to state that somebody has created a company, somebody has been able to expand their ability to create more jobs, that's awesome, not only for us, but for you, for the economy, for all of the purposes that we can obviously understand. So we have many different things that are always happening, that are giving opportunities like that. Then we look for future ideas. So when we look for future ideas, what we're looking for is somebody to come forward and say, you know what, I've got a technology I'd like to see further developed. So if you have a company, if you're associated with a nonprofit organization, that's who we will partner with. We partner with nonprofit organizations to actually run the competition for us. So I was saying earlier, we did a competition in electric airplanes. So this one sounded real simple, I thought. So in 2009, we announced, you build me an airplane. It flies above 4,000 mean sea level. You fly 200 miles, 100 miles an hour. 2 people have to fit in the airplane, have to fly. And we're going to give you, oh, by the way, 1 gallon of gas or gas equivalent per passenger. Now, if you take a small general aviation aircraft to try to fly that same distance, you're looking to spend anywhere from 12 to 15 gallons of fuel. So now I'm going to give you 2. A lot of people laughed at us. They told us we were idiots. They told us we were dumb for even proposing that. We had a challenge to go find an allied organization, a nonprofit organization, to run that competition for us. So we were a little bit wary since everybody was telling us we were crazy, but that's okay because I like being crazy. And I was able to find an organization called the Cafe Foundation, which the president of the organization is Brian Seeley here. And the Cafe Foundation, they are a nonprofit organization that had a mission statement that was lined up exactly with what we were trying to do. To me, it's totally awesome. We have an eye doctor, you have a metal building fabricator, you have a school teacher, you have all sorts of different people from across the type of community that's associated with any area. But these people are geeked out on airplanes. Let me tell you what. They're modifying their own airplanes and taking information, gathering data, trying to reduce fuel consumption, increase fuel efficiency, reduce noise. These people are geeked out on airplanes. They were perfect for us. So they come in, they ran our competition, and not only that, they were able to go off and induce Google to help sponsor the competition, to help bring it up to an even higher level. They were the perfect fit for us. So now we have an allied organization that's running the competition for us. We have a bunch of competitors that come in. If I remember correctly, we had somewhere in the order of like 16 people first initially sign up around there. And so as a testament to just how difficult this challenge was, 16 people register. 2 months out, we're down to, maybe 10. We get a month out, we go down now to 8. We get 2 weeks out, we're down to 6. We get a week out, we're down to 5. We get the day before, 4 teams show up. We're going to compete. The day of competition, okay, we're down to maybe 3, okay? So one of the teams couldn't follow the rules, so they got disqualified. The 4th team, so we have 3 teams that can actually compete in the competition. Those 3 teams get up, they're up in the air, they're flying. One of them, they did okay. They didn't even come close to winning because we set the bar at a pretty high level. When we set our challenges, we said it's going to take about 2 to 5 years to win a challenge. And that's exactly what it was for the Green Flight Challenge. It was 2 years to where teams came in, people laughed at us, but yet when we ran the competition in 2011, we had teams come up, and not only did they meet the 200 passenger miles per gallon, but they exceeded it and had over 400 passenger miles per gallon. These guys were phenomenal with the aircraft they did develop and they designed. They doubled the efficiency of that aircraft. So to go off and do something like that was pretty phenomenal. In fact, other people were commenting that it was somewhere along the lines of a Lindbergh moment for electric aviation. And the reason we say gas equivalent for the fuel is because none of the airplanes, well, the 2 planes that won didn't use any fuel at all. They were purely electric aircraft. The one airplane that got disqualified, that was Embry-Riddle from Daytona, Florida. And the reason they were disqualified is because their safety officer wouldn't allow them to fly 2 people. Absolutely could not. So they understood that. We let them fly as a demonstration school. They flew the world's first hybrid airplane. So it took off on a fuel, It flew on electric and then did a glide landing. It's a phenomenal feat for college university, for college teams. But we see that over and over and over within our competitions. So not only is it citizen inventors and hobbyists, but it's also college students coming in. 25% of our competitors are academia. So they'll have teachers sponsoring them and going off and developing the technology to solve our problems. As we look to the future for what Centennial Challenges can do, or what Centennial Challenges would be able to do, we soon find that there's many opportunities for us to have technology that we're trying to advance that would be on the orders of exploration for Europa. So for those that aren't familiar, it's really kind of cool. Europa has an ice sheet that's about 2 miles thick, and then there's water underneath. The real challenge is that ice is minus 250 degrees Fahrenheit. So if we were to use a radioisotope, a nuclear drill, essentially, and melt our way through, that's great, except for the water melts behind you, and now it refreezes, and you get samples, and you can't bring them back, right? So you got them entombed, which does us no good. So now we're trying to say, well, what if we come up with some technology? How do we drill through this? How do we get through this minus 250 degree ice? How do we be able to get samples and bring them up, core samples? So those are the types of problems that we have, which, again, we could pay one person and get one solution, or we put up a prize purse and say, if anybody can solve this problem, this money's yours. And we'll go through that route. And so we look for Europa exploration. We look for devices that help us explore the planetary surface of Venus, which is a caustic, acidic environment, significantly high pressures, and very hot temperatures. So most metals are going to melt, and most shell devices are just going to get crushed and collapsed. So those are some of the challenges that we have within that environment. Another one that we have is 20-20-20. So we're thinking about maybe if somebody could build us an airship. Doesn't have to be a big airship, but it has to be an airship big enough to go to 20,000 feet for 20 hours and carry 20 kilograms. So if you can build an airship that can do that, you might be the kind of person we're looking for. So we're always coming up with some pretty crazy, far-fetched ideas. Our current challenges that we have going right now today, we have 2 competitions. One of them, we've partnered with the Worcester Polytech Institute, WPI, up in Worcester, Massachusetts. And what we have there is the sample return robot. So we have an image, and the images going on in the background are just pictures from our competitions that we've had in the past. So the robot competition like this one, it's really simple. Build me a robot that can go out autonomously, nobody driving it, find samples that are placed out on the competition field, pick them up, and bring them back. That's it. But it's got to be fully autonomous. And oh, by the way, you can't use GPS and you can't use a magnetic compass because those don't exist on Mars or the Moon or any other planetary surface, or at least we haven't mapped the magnetic structure enough to be able to have a compass that would, a lunar compass. And the competition field is the size of 2 football fields, and you only get 2 hours. And we'll kind of tell you some areas of interest from our reconnaissance satellite. You have a topo map, and we'll give you 3 landmarks to triangulate off of. But after that, you're on your own. So you get your SLAM software, and you start creating your own map as you go out exploring to try to find the areas of interest, to try to find the samples, to try to pick them up. And you got to get some of the easy, the medium, and the hard samples. So easy samples, it's a hockey puck. It's a PVC Schedule 40 pipe painted orange. It's a white Delrin cylinder with a gray bicycle in it. We tell you exactly what it is. The medium samples will describe vaguely that it's so many cubic centimeters and so many grams of weight. And then the hard samples, we don't tell you what they are at all. But you got to get some hard samples if you're going to want to win $1 million. And as you go around, you got to be able to assess and find things and go, pine cone, no. Rock, no. Squirrel, no. Decahedron, that's probably something we want. That's odd. Keep that. So you got to have some good recognition software also. So it is pretty difficult, and apparently it's difficult enough that we've run the competition for 2 years with no success the first year. We awarded $5,000 to a team that successfully completed level 1 of the competition. And then now we're going to run level 3. We're going to run the competition for the 3rd year here in June. So level 1 of the competition was pretty simple, I thought. Give me a robot that can drive 200 feet, pick up the white cylinder with a gray bicycle hook, and you can even point your robot at it. Nobody got it the first year. So apparently it's really easy to build the robot. It's not so easy to build the robot that has the brains and the vision by itself, because you're not driving it, to drive out and recognize that there's a white Delrin plastic cylinder with a gray bicycle hook. It's kind of funny because last year when they were competing, everybody had already built the robot. Now they're just working on the software. So one of the competitors did a really great job. They took off, they got there, they found it, they sat on it, they licked it, they kissed it, they looked at it, they touched it, and then they proceeded to pick up the white clover flower next to it and bring the white clover flower back. We don't pay for clover flowers. We do pay for white cylinders with gray bicycle hooks. So they were kind of bummed. We had somebody build a robot. It went out. It found it. It picked it up, and it proceeded immediately to get lost. It couldn't find its way home. This is a picture right now of one of our massive space systems. They were the first place to landing competition for our rocket design. So as they go off to build these robots, he went out, he found it, picked it up, it got lost. Another team goes, they find it, they pick it up, they get all the way back to the home base, and then the robot drives off the back of the ramp and goes off the back of the home base. Sorry, you gotta land on the home base. You can't drive off of it. That doesn't get you back. But we finally had one team that did exactly what they needed to do. They picked it up, they moved it off, they found it, they picked it up, and they came straight back home and got it back. So now they get the option, because they didn't do it on the first day of level 1 competition, and nobody did, that meant that the second day meant level 2, larger field, larger prize purse. Instead, we needed level 1 to give people an opportunity to try again. So these are the successes that we had on the second day of competition. Since they were able to successfully pick up the sample and bring it back on that time, they have the option of going straight from competition and competing for level 2, or they can come back and say, oh, we're going to try level 1 again. And then hopefully if they're successful a second time, they'll be able to get to level 2. So it's their choice. They've modified the robot too much to do level 1 because they're so highly focused on level 2. It behooves them to skip level 1 and go straight for level 2. Ditch the 5,000 and go for the million. That's the kind of risk that makers make, right? So you have success, you make your first model, you get your 10th model, that's pretty good. You iterate your 100th model, and that puts you on. I can show all of them. Look back at the very first one that you built, man, they're not even the same. They're totally different. That's forward with the competitions and the advancement of the technology they're trying to build. So the other competition we have that's active right now, we have a $500,000 prize purse for the unmanned aircraft system. So we're doing a huge challenge to develop a higher level of technology in UAVs to allow them to be safely incorporated into the national airspace. So NASA doesn't write regulations. We don't tell the FAA what needs to be done. All we can do and all we want to do is provide a platform for UAV builders, drone builders, unmanned aircraft builders to come up with something, develop a technology that would take that to a higher level to help make the technology safer. So it's totally debatable, and I'm not here to debate whether or not it's right or wrong to have unmanned aircraft in the skies. But what I do want is that if it is going to happen, I want to make sure that we get the best technology out there. I don't know about you, but I think that would be much safer than somebody just going out and working around with it and doing whatever they want. So we'll do that for $500,000, and that's a pretty simple one where you just get a UAV, fly a known route, come back, land, and then there's a bonus point to show good airmanship. It is a pretty large course that you're going to have to fly, so you're going to have that capability. And then we want to have the ability for what's called ADSB, automatic signaling between aircraft. So basically you're saying, I'm over here, I'm over here, I'm here, I'm here. And the other person goes, I see you, I see you, I see you. And you don't want them to be seeing each other directly. Obviously, we don't want to hit. But with the ADSB broadcasting, it helps to have avoidance from aircraft. It's just great situational awareness of what's around you with that. So when it gets to the first one for 500,000 is being able to fly well and do that. Understood. Let's get the technology up to a set baseline level. For $1 million now, we're going to go forward. We want to develop a technology where not only do you have to have this ADS-B signal coming in and being able to find other aircraft, but you have ADS-B signals going out. You're telling everybody where you're at. You have to be able to verbally communicate with the air traffic control, telling them who you are, where you're going, even if you have loss of link. So if you have loss of link, you're not talking to your UAV. So that means that voice control has to be embedded within the software of the unmanned aircraft and be able to broadcast that to air traffic control as needed whenever you have loss of link. And it'll simply tell the air traffic control, you know, this is N5942, hold in a holding pattern at this location. I will hold here for 10 minutes. If I don't receive link communication, I'm going to return back to my home base of this point using this azimuth and this direction at this altitude. And so it gives air traffic control everything they need to know your flight path and make sure to keep that clear as you fly back to your home base. So that begins to make the competition a little bit more difficult for a UAV builder. But nonetheless, it's just the brains that's in the robot. People can build robots, people can build UAVs, people can fight UAVs over in the drone cage all day long. That's the easy part. The hard part is the brains, the software. So software coders, software writers, these competitions are really highly focused on that more so than the actual hardware itself. I'm not saying the hardware is easy, but I've seen a lot of robots built and I've seen a lot of UAVs built. But to have them go by themselves, that's pretty impressive technology there. So those are the two things that we have going on within that environment for in the future. So again, how do we engage you guys and how do we make it easy for you? Because I can stand here all day long and say, oh yeah, no problem. You guys go develop your technology, come enter my competition. And the first thing people are going to go is, yeah, right. So let me look at my wallet and I can't build a UAV with those dollars. So where do you get the funding? Where do you get the ability to enter the competition? Where do you get your registration fee? And those types of things can come from multiple sources. There's lots of crowdsourcing organizations out there, but there's also organizations out there like the next gentleman you're going to hear at Space Gambit. So Space Gambit, their whole goal in life is they go off and they get money from someplace, and they want to see your proposals. They want to see your ideas. They want you to come in and pitch to them, hey, I've got this idea. I want to enter this competition. This is good technology that needs to be developed, and this is how I'm going to do it. What do you think? Do you think that's a good enough idea? Is this a good enough business model or business, not even a business plan, a competition plan? Would you give me some seed money to help build my technology? So that's all about what Jerry Isdell does, and that's what he's going to be coming up and talking about next. So again, my name is Sam Ortega. I'm the manager for the Centennial Challenges program. We are located over at the NASA booth. So absolutely, if you have any questions or want any information about the challenges or want to know where you can go read more about it, besides going to www.nasa.gov/challenges, come on over, come talk to me in the booth. I'll be there all the rest of the day. I'll be there all day tomorrow. And thank you all very much for coming out. Go out, be strong, and make.